I will dominate, and this is Thorin's channel. The guy who, if I keep on associating with him, will get me banned on Twitch eventually.
Right, this is going to be another episode of Thorin's Big Brains. My guests for this one are Foxdrop, who is a streamer / LEC analyst. Although I noticed they keep you in that, like, modern day LEC is very different. Back in the day, it was like a set people, and they were always on every episode. You're in, like, the rotating circle of people who come in, and, like, you're always on a random one. It's like, I'm on week 3 and nothing else. Like, how does that actually work? Do they actually give you any, like, advance, like, a warning of when you're going to come on, or how often you get to come on? Do you have a set number of weeks for each year or whatever? How does it work?
Yeah, I'm in LEC limbo, innit? It's honestly, I wish I had like a great answer to say to that, but the best answer is I usually get told like before any of the split starts, like, yeah, we want you for this split, and then I get messaged on the Monday, oh, you're on this week, by the way, and then I go on the show and chat shit for a few games, and then I'm off, and then I just sit and wait to hear again, and sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, and it's just what it is.
Hashtag Skaparen was right, I guess.
I know. Listen, mate, that's actually gangster. They've got this motherfucker waiting by a phone, just like waiting for it to ring, like some heartbroken woman. Just like, oh, will he call? Will he call? And then the second he calls, of course, you're just all over it, aren't you? Oh, yeah. Oh, I'd love to come on this week. Yeah. Oh, Wednesday. I mean, I guess I could move a few things. Like, give me a break. All right. Whatever. Listen, we all do what we've got to do, Foxdrop. And I tell you right now, people in League of Legends do a fucking lot because they have to do a lot. So speaking of that, someone who calls out these sorts of things often is RichsWrath, which I'll just say, and listen, it'll never sound great said out loud. We all know that. But it is actually a good name. It is applicable. And it's just better than H2K Rich because, as you know, to this day, every single... People think I'm exaggerating. Just go on his Twitter feed. Every single rebuttal, even if it doesn't start that way, like it could start like this. He could say something like, I actually think there's a lot of corruption in the industry and that a lot of people are short-sighted in how they make contracts. The person might even initially like engage him like, oh, well, what do you think it is about contracts? Like, should they have a different thing? But eventually, the second basically they get sick of the argument, they parachute out by just going, yeah, we're H2K, and then they just say anything like the financial things, like a season, or like, you know, what happened to that, you know, what happened to signing this guy, or the best one is when they just go, what about Svenskeren? It's like, mate, that was in fucking like 2015 or something mental. Like, what are you talking about? That story is so old, no one even remembers the details of it, which we should probably go into one time. The maddest thing about that one is if you ever look into it, Rich was actually completely right on that one. I even said it at the time, like, people just don't know the information. So, okay, Rich here, technically, you're all going to go, he does nothing because H2K is dead and all that. Like, no, that's by the by. He's actually the director of the Black Lodge GG, which is his, like, agency he works with that represents a bunch of players. I will say that does sound, just from the name, like some sort of fucking secret society, like some sort of, like, sinister shit. So, bear in mind, you're normally against that. I'd say if you'd literally called the agency the Old Boys Club or something, like, why did you pick that name?
I mean, it's kind of just a nod to, it's like a David Lynchism, but I guess that was lost on like 99.9% of the community, right. So I'm from already slightly slightly regretting that one. But yeah, I mean, it's basically this sort of slightly sinister purgatory, which sort of alludes to the fact that, you know, there's evil in everyone, but also good in everyone. So, you know, wonderful digestible messaging for the community, but knowing that they wouldn't actually even be able to put their mouths around the bait to even understand what I was talking about in the first place. Yeah, I am somewhat regretting that one.
The bad news is that was a massive spoiler for Twin Peaks, the old version and the new version. The good news is none of you have watched Twin Peaks, and the middling news is if you start watching it, you won't remember him saying that ages ago by the time you're about one season in, so I wouldn't worry about it at that point in time. That's one of those shows, by the way, that people just lie and say they watched. I watched part of it, but I never watched the whole thing. The difference is, I'm not lying. So let's start out. And we're going to start, obviously, talking about Worlds. We've had the whole group stage take place. As usual, but probably even more extreme. There's always upsets at Worlds that you go without saying. Like, I don't think I've ever seen all the groups go vaguely close to what people expect. You nearly always even get like a crazy Western team gets an upset or something. But this one does feel particularly outrageous because what people forgot going in, you could tell people have sort of the filters set to previous Worlds, is because we had 8 teams repping overall LPL and LCK. There's no such thing as an easy easy group anymore. And in fact, in a lot of the groups, like you saw with Group A and Group D, sometimes it's like the best Western teams are like the worst team in the group. So as a result, though, I do think that some of the analysts were almost set in the old mindset of like, right, the dominant Korean team should always 6-0, and that they were doing that thing, whereas as you saw in any of these groups pretty much, there was always upset potential. Even West versus East, there's basically only one team that was unbeatable, which is Dan1. That's about it. Aside from that, everyone else at certain times had some vulnerability. Foxdrop, compared to past Worlds, what did you think of this group stage? Was it as crazy as people thought?
I think it's really crazy, specifically from an NA standpoint, because everyone's expectations have been completely flipped on their head, specifically with like FPX, for example, right? Coming into the tournament, people saying it's like one of the top 3 teams like to win Worlds, one of the favorites. Sure. They don't even get out of groups when their competition is Cloud9 and Rogue to make it. Like, surely you put money on them coming out. They failed miserably. And just in general, I think NA's always crap at Worlds. Let's just be real about it. They're not very good at Worlds. 0-6 number 1 seed. We will remember that coming from TSM. And they're in Cloud9, get out of groups, 3-3 from 100 Thieves, taking games off of the best teams. Liquid was 3-3 as well. That was a 4-way tiebreaker. Like, they could have got out of groups too. Like, what the hell? We're in a world where, arguably, realistically speaking, all NA teams could have made it out of groups, which is ridiculously historic and just absolute, like, just mind blowing. And if you're an NA fan, then like, these groups, I don't think you've seen a more exciting group stage than this year.
And even though I will add the caveat, of course, like the number 2 seed Fnatic was somewhat gimped compared to what they would be. There was also the world where like all the EU teams could have failed to get out the group stage, which, by the way, like, if you listen, NA fans are terrible every Worlds, because obviously they just start resenting everyone else and no one else is allowed to fucking succeed, and they just get salty that the old continent is way better than them still. But I will say, there's definitely, especially from Fnatic fans, there's always some counter shit posting as well from the EU fans, and EU fans would have malded off the face of the planet if Mad Lions hadn't gotten out, because everyone's fucking eggs was in that basket. Like, everyone wanted to believe that, they're so good now. Like, I know people had given up on Rogue, but obviously Fnatic and Mad Lions were the 2 hopes, and then Fnatic all got crippled. So, Rich, what were your thoughts about the group stage overall?
For me, I guess this is kind of somewhat of like a negative take, but to me, this World's more than any just sort of highlighted how bad the format is. And I think regardless of how good or bad like NA is, for example, like any given split, or I guess same to a certain extent with EU or even LCK, I don't really feel like that all gets ironed out and cleared up once we reach Worlds, which I feel like it should. I feel like Worlds should be the barometer for which region is actually good, which teams are actually good. And I just feel that because so many games felt like in week 2, you felt sort of, or part of the way through week 2, you really felt like any NA team could beat any non-NA team, and same for Europe, and obviously vice versa for all the other regions. And to me, that's not a good thing necessarily. People might say, oh, that's super exciting, whatever, but I just feel like this World's more than any should show that BO1 just doesn't do it. And I understand there are logistical issues with timing and stuff like that, but also the amount of time that's like taken in between games, I do believe there could be a world where actually there's not that much added broadcast time needed to have one BO3 per group stage in the round robin format, right? Which to me would be much better, because again,
there's loads of time, Rich. There was actually a point Monty made the other day on Summer Insight. He said if you actually look how long they have, because Worlds is almost a month long, 3 weeks of it, dude, is the bracket stage, which is just like 7 matches.
Well, yeah, true. I mean, again, I'm just going to play it conservatively with this example and say like 1 BO3 for group stage or whatever. And even though people might say, oh, but in some scenarios that's just still 2 games if they go 2-0. Yeah, it is, but there's something very different as well, I think, about that also shows you different aspects of how strong or weak teams are, from not just a coaching staff perspective, which obviously would be more important in those scenarios, but also how players, like mindset, their mental, everything like that. All this stuff counts to me, and I would feel much more satisfied that the correct result happened if I see one BO1, even if it's only 2 games, rather than 2 different one BO3 rather than 2 different BO1s 1 week apart. To me, it's just archaic now, and it doesn't work. And what Foxdrop said about NA is like absolutely true. But again, to me, that doesn't really say like, oh, NA's like super close to China now. I think because of how long the game's been out, NA definitely is closer to the East than it ever has been, probably just by virtue of that.
Yes.
But I would actually like to find out, how close are you? And there's also a world where no NA team got out and we wouldn't have any idea of where they stood, right? Like Cloud9 could easily have not gone through and then we wouldn't know. Mad Lions could easily have not gone through and then we wouldn't know. So that was kind of like my biggest takeaway from that. And then also the other issue, which, I disagreed with, like on Twitter, for example, with like LS's take or a lot of people's take about sort of the integrity of BO1s once the team's already through and stuff like this. I also think that there could be some kind of small change made to incentivize teams to always play at 100%. A good point, I can't remember who said it to me, but someone said to me, you could just have like a monetary incentive, like, teams get monies per group stage wins, which I think would also be interesting from like, if you make it, as a wild card from a region that's completely doomed and you're expected to go 0-6, every win is like that much more important on a personal level. And if you've been eliminated from the tournament, you still have something to play for. If you're already through to the bracket stage, you still have something to play for, even if that doesn't necessarily trump the idea of creating an easier bracket for you if you actually have aspirations to win the tournament. But it's a start. Like I think they definitely could fix that. And again, just going to the BO3 system, I think would almost certainly fix that. It's highly unlikely that you have dead rubbers if you have a BO3 format and not 2 ones.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would definitely agree. If it's best of threes, it's just less likely, because best of one with 4 teams with round robin, it basically ensures you're going to get tiebreakers. And at least one group, if not, as this time, it was a nightmare. It was a whole bunch of groups where they had to play the tiebreakers out. So in that scenario, by the way, that even fucks your schedule, which is one of the few things that's supposed to go for why you'd want BO1. Like, well, I can schedule the whole day out and know roughly how long. You don't. Like, as you saw, I personally think it's mad unfair that the tiebreakers, you can have a 4-team tiebreaker. So you mean that, like, when Mad Lions and Gen.G, who it turned out, by the way, it wasn't a meaningless match. Like, Mad Lions went from, I could have had Cloud9 to I got the best team in the world because they lost a BO1 in a day when they had to play 6 best of ones, 2 of them in a row. Like, that's just circumstances. Well, that's not, you're not even setting the format up for what you wanted. You wanted to select for, you can prep for these games, you know your opponent. Like, none of those things apply. I'll even throw this in there, right? An argument people often give against doing a GSL group, which for people who don't know, it's basically like a double elim bracket in the group, essentially, is when you do that, right, it eliminates matches that don't matter. You basically only keep playing if you're in the tournament still. If you lose 0-2, you go out of the group. Now, the one thing you can argue against that, which people do, is, yeah, but the good thing about a round robin is, you know that they get to play all the teams. And, like, if I'm for a small region, I get to see my team play like the best team. Yeah, think that through, though, because when they actually play at Worlds, the worst team and the best team, there's 2 outcomes happen. One, it is a game that still matters, so the lower team just gets shit stomped and it is irrelevant for everyone else. Or 2, and this isn't a great one, is say the team that in the GSL group would essentially have won the group and never play the team that went 0-2. They play you when it no longer matters to them, and you might even beat them, but who gives a fuck, because it doesn't get a count. Like, I'll give you the example. Do you remember last year where fucking FlyQuest beat Top Esports, who was considered like the number 1 team in the world in the group stage? But it's when like Top Esports had already like definitely gotten out of the group, and it just meant whether they came first or second. Well, the problem is, if that was a real game, FlyQuest could be like, holy shit, we just beat this super team from China rather. Now they can't, because anyone who knows the format would just go, I don't think they really gave a fuck at that point. Or they might have, been trying different champions they were going to use in the real games, or they might have sandbagged it and tried to show nothing. Like, it actually doesn't work for what people... Remember, what you've got to do with a format is this. You've got to ask, what am I selecting for? What type of tournament do I want? What do I want to show the fans? So even in this scenario, it doesn't even have to be that you go to best of 3. I personally would prefer it, of course. But I do think, like, you make a good point there. Like, one of the main things I actually think most fans want from Worlds, beyond exciting matches, really is to know how strong the region is, Rich. I actually think, in fact, as you're pointing out, basically all the results, no matter even if we know it's not a good form, we all use it for that. Like, Cloud9 getting out does give some sort of like, oh, maybe NA is not so bad. If Mad Lions had have lost all those tiebreakers, it would be the story of like, wow, and LEC's failure, is the region not good? Like, what do you think on this, Foxdrop? Because that's not a point people often make, but basically for fans, it is a big deal how good the region is, and, kind of the idea that this is supposed to represent how good we are,
Yeah, for sure. I do the EU Masters each year, right? Both the spring and in summer, and it's a very similar concept there. The thing that we're told to like really harp on a lot is the regional prize. France versus Germany versus versus Spain versus Poland, all these like regional things, because that's the real highlight of EU Masters is. Fans from the respective regions get to see their team, their regions perform, and then they get to trash talk the other regions, and it's all good fun, and that's the real appeal for E-Masters. And I think when you get to international tournaments, it's exactly the same. Like for example, when I was watching what was it? The Valorant, was it VC? I can't remember. Was it VCS? I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, VCT.
VCT, right? So the recent one. I haven't really been following Valorant esports closely at all. Sure. I recognize some of the names from CS:GO or CS, even 1.6 from back in the day. But like, I recognize some of the names, but all I cared about was like Gambit, because I know Gambit's like EU / like CIS and Russian and stuff, and some of the EU teams and whatever, because I just want to see how good EU is at. FPS, and then when NA wins, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So NA is actually good at an esport. That's cool. We'll keep an eye on that as well. Like it's all about the regional stuff, and I think Worlds is no different. Like, that's why I'd love to have more international events in League, and like the whole format that League of Legends has is perfect for monetization, and as a business model, it's brilliant. You have like these salaries, you have these scheduled, like this league format. It's great if you're trying to make a business out of esports. But for me, like the excitement of esports comes when like like these tournaments where anything can happen. I remember I think it was Team Liquid's CS:GO victory, like it's maybe a year or two back now.
A couple of years ago, yeah.
That was like a huge thing, and like just really amazing and like so hype, because it was just. The fact that you get all these different competitions where there's so many opportunities for you to compare regions, for you to have international competition, I think that's like so exciting, and that's where the best esports comes from. And the fact that you only really get one tournament to see that every year, and as you guys have pointed out, there are like formatting issues with that where you don't always really get to see what you want to see. You've got like it's all best of ones, and if you fail in the best of one, you don't even get to play a best of series in the entire world tournament. Like. I really like. I love it, but the fact that it only happens once a year, for me, I feel like I would just love to see more of it. And so, like the regional stuff that you're mentioning, yeah, it's huge, and especially for NA. I think for NA, like they'll be really happy with how it turned out. All their team, no team went negative apart from Cloud9, and they're the only one that got out of groups.
True.
That's like
great format. Great format.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It is odd, and I'd love to see a world where we could see TL do a best of 5 series against like China or Korea or even EU. But we're not going to see that, which is unfortunate. But still, it's still exciting to be able to see these teams kind of like improve and like move up as a region.
Sure. Okay, so if we start talking about some specific teams now, I thought mainly I'd let you guys kind of lead the direction on this. So Rich, what's a team that you would like to talk about or talk around?
I guess I kind of want to talk about the Damwon Mad series, because I think it's also like a good framing advice for like how Worlds has been so far and how I kind of expect series to go. Like I really feel like this Worlds has been way more so about top side than bot side, which is slightly strange because how like the solo queue meta and stuff was panning out, it was kind of like which jungler was best at going bot and winning the game. Basically, it's just like better bot wins. But I really feel like the Worlds meta has just been super about top side, and I think part of that, apart from anything else, is because I feel like the talent, or a lot of the talent, is actually on the top side of the map this World. I don't feel like there's like players, many super strong bot lanes. I guess like Ruler and Light on paper are, but they haven't like fully convinced me. I mean, they don't need to convince me of their overall playing ability, but because of the format and everything else, I don't feel like they've popped off yet.
Sure.
But I think that the Damwon Mad series is, to me, the most interesting, even though theoretically, like Damwon are huge favorites. Obviously, it's got the backdrop of it's a rematch of the MSI, which went to 5 games. I think when you look at the sort of player differential, other than top lane, I don't really feel like there is a big player differential. I feel like Mad actually matches up like fairly well, to be fair, or like as well as you could expect from a Western team against, in my opinion, probably the best team in the world right now. Sure. And obviously you have the added aspect of, while I feel like they're slightly overmatched in every position, it's close enough that it doesn't really make or shouldn't make too much odds in the laning phase outside again of top. Like if Khan goes crazy, then I don't like see it going too well for Armut. But I think that Mad is sufficiently good in the team fighting that I actually expect this to be a 5-game series. I think Damwon will win. But if you go back and look at the MSI, what I thought was really interesting is we always talk about Mad being this amazing team fighting team in the context of LEC, right? But if you look at that series, especially games 2 and games 3, both Mad and Damwon were like super even in gold. They both had full on team fighting comps. It wasn't like Mad was forcing them to engage in fights because they're behind and like taking them away from the side lanes or something. Both teams wanted to fight, and Mad were winning the team fights in the games where the gold was even. So to me, that's super interesting. It's kind of like, will the individual laners on Damwon be able to get far ahead enough to, when it comes to the mid game, mitigate the advantage, which honestly I give in the team fighting slightly to Mad when last seen in kind of a BO5 format. So to me, that's definitely the most interesting. And as I said, as a series, I think it kind of is indicative of the tournament as a whole so far, which to me is mainly about mid jungle, but the top side of the map in general.
Yes. What do you think, Foxdrop?
Yeah, I think that's. I don't think it's going to 5 games. I'll be totally honest. I think Damwon is like going to 3-0 Mad, and
Wolfed.
I don't think they'll. I think they're head and shoulders above everyone else at Worlds right now. Like from what you've seen, what I've seen watching the games. The way that teams have performed, specifically like the weaknesses, it seems like every team drops the ball at least like once or twice a game, like quite significantly.
Yes.
Except Damwon. Damwon, they're not infallible. Don't get me wrong. Like they're not the best team ever in the history of League of Legends. But as far as this World Tournament goes, like normally you have kind of like maybe 2 or 3 teams that you think are really good, and then they're all batting it out and it's great, and then historically speaking, apart from the past couple of years, it would always be like a rematch of the LCK finals, right, in the final, and then you'll see who actually is the better Korean team. This time around, I think you've got like S tier, Damwon, and then A tier, or even like B plus tier, the rest of the teams. Like I really think there's like a significant gap there, and I don't have enough faith. I should, because I'm EU, but I don't have enough faith in Mad Lions like laning phase to get to a point where they can out team fight Damwon. Because I do think though, like I agree with you, Rich. Like their team fighting is very good. Like Mad Lions are very good at that, and if they can get to a point, depending on the draft and how the lane phase goes, like sure they can bring that. I mean
I think that's spot on. That the series is all about, can Damwon get a big enough lead that it doesn't matter if Mad are better at team fighting or not. And the way I even phrase that is kind of like assuming that Damwon are fighting against a clock, which I think is too generous to Mad, right? Like I don't think it's like, oh, it's 20 minutes and they're only 3k ahead, so Mad's going to win. Like I think Damwon, obviously a good team fighting team as well. But the reason why I would never go against any matchup in this tournament, I would never go Mad as losing to 0 basically. And this might seem like a little bit of a corny point. This is probably the least.
They got the power of friendship.
Well, this is like the least logical point I think I've ever made on a show like this. But I think if I look at someone like Armut and just the general atmosphere that the guys have in the team, and again, this is going to sound really corny, but Armut is someone who genuinely loves playing the game. And the reason why that's important is because a lot of players don't. They really don't. They do it for the competition, maybe the love of competition, but obviously also because they're really good at it. But the daily grind and everything else, like this is someone who genuinely loves to play the game. And the reason why I think that's important is, and I'll use like a more relatable analogy, is whenever I played football, like when I was a bit younger, I loved football. I loved football so much that I genuinely did not care if we were winning or losing. Obviously, I was playing to win, but if we were losing, my enjoyment or my want to do well on an individual level and to, help the team get back in the game or whatever did not change at all. It's like the happiest I ever was as a kid. And I think that matters. I feel like when Mad lose a game, that I genuinely think, beyond the obvious context of, okay, now the series is harder, I genuinely think those players do not care. I think their mental reset is insane. I think they are the absolute cliche of, it's still 0-0, lads, or whatever. Like, I think they actually have this mindset. I think this gets said of too many players and too many teams. I think it's a little bit overused. I think with that group, that is actually their mindset. And I think in a best of 5 series, I think if Dan1 do make mistakes or whatever, or maybe they're 2 games up, and they're sort of, have a mental lapse or whatever, I think Mad will be there to capitalize. And I definitely see it being a long series because of that. And again, I think when you're stuck on stage for like 4 hours plus, I think that matters a lot, especially when you have people who are there to win, which, don't get me right, is like this own kind of internal motivation. That loses to someone who fucking loves being on stage. I would back the guy that likes being on stage. Again, I'm not picking Mad in this series, by the way. I'm saying that matters to the end result.
Sure. I will say, go on, mate.
Sorry, just to build on that as well. Yeah. Someone who I just want to give a big fat kiss to is Luka Perkovic, who is the untiltable king of League of Legends. You saw him when he was on G2. They always have a big, like, shit-eating grin on their face. It's like, I almost want you to lose. You're down 0-2 and you're grinning and laughing. It slightly irritates me. But when they actually do lose, they're literally crying. They obviously care so much about winning, but their actual, like, go-to mentality is like exactly as you were saying, Rich, as well. I think the previous G2 rosters have been perfect examples of that as well, where they're just so chill, and they are really good at that mental reset, and that is so important. And you saw that. Like that is. I really dislike the phrase intangibles. I follow the NHL, the ice hockey a lot, and that's always thrown around like veterans, locker room presence, or the grit and the intangibles that a player brings. Basically, the things that you can't look up on a score sheet, right? When you sign them, and why they have this bloated contract. And it's something that, it just gets thrown around as a buzzword, and because you cannot quantify it, it's always there lurking, and people always use it almost as like a cop-out argument as to why a player is worth what they're worth. And Perks this time against that game against Rogue, the tiebreaker, was bang on perfect example of why that man's worth $11 million, because without him you don't win that game, and it's purely because of the way he was playing the game, not necessarily his skill. Obviously he's a great player, but just he was completely sprinting it at times, doing the absolute dumbest stuff that you can think of, like just pure disrespect to Rogue, and getting caught and getting punished, and just honestly throwing the game. If he was playing versus a better team, they probably would have like caught that and just really punished him for it. But not once did he stop. He didn't stop doing any of that dumb shit the entire game, and that's what won in the game in the end. Like getting the pick on Odo before like Sentinel Dragon and stuff like that. He was constantly in Rogue's face, and you could tell by the way that Rogue was playing. They were indecisive. They were playing not to lose. And as soon as I saw that, it was like 20 minutes into the game where Rogue were ahead, and it looked they were in a great place to win the game. But just the way they're like playing around Baron specifically, you could just tell these guys were so afraid to lose the game that they just kept reeling themselves in. They kept being scared. And as soon as that happened, even though they weren't losing the game at that point and they were in a good place to win it, I was like, this doesn't look good. Rogue are not going to win this game. And then lo and behold, it's Perks, who plays like, it's just another solo queue game. He's queued up on his Smurf and he's playing against some turbo randoms he's never heard of. And it's like, oh shit, I ran it down. Well, I guess I better go and sprint and see if I can get a kill this time round. 7th time's the charm. And he's playing on the bloody world stage doing this. And that is the value of someone as experienced as Perks. Like, just does not let it get to him. And that genuinely, I strongly believe that is just the pure difference right there of getting Cloud9 out of groups. You could have someone like as good as Perks in that role, but they're not Perks. They wouldn't have played the way that he played there, and you wouldn't have won that game.
And he also knows it's the win condition as well, right? Like, he's not just doing it because he's having fun or something. Like, he knows the win condition is him pressurizing the map on LeBlanc like a madman. He knows he has to play super aggro. And yeah, he oversteps a couple of times. But when he dies, he doesn't like go into his shell and think like, oh crap, like if we lose this game and I get caught again, people are going to blame it on me. He's just fully aware that's a win condition. So he just keeps sending it and sending it and sending it. Because he just backs himself basically that, I'll make some mistakes, but they'll probably make more.
Obviously, that was mainly a point about like mentality tied into what we're talking about Mad Lions. We'll segue actually after this and we'll talk about Cloud9. I'll just say this. First of all, on that Perks angle, it's a point I actually made when it was between the 2 round robin phases of the group on some other show. Like, I'm getting really sick of people on Reddit thinking they've spotted like a mistake where they can do the old, like, I wouldn't even do that in gold. It's like, you actually are a moron. Like, do you not understand the premise of risk reward? Because actually it's Caps who taught me this in League of Legends. Dude, I would see him in green lane. Think about my favourite player, Froggen, right? Froggen will never, ever get caught by like a gank that he can see coming. He will always like sidestep it, play more conservatively, flash if necessary. But I would notice Caps would sometimes just let himself die to ganks. Even when he was playing stuff like LeBlanc, and I would be like, what the fuck's he? Why would he save flash there? But what you would realise was, what this guy understood, because he'd played to the limit of the game constantly in solo queue and pro play, he actually knew this death's actually not worth using the flash for. Like, it's actually better if I have it for the next one. Like, maybe my lane's in a scenario it's going to push out. It's like, whatever the situation was, he actually understood that sometimes, even though in this one isolated scenario, it's the wrong play, it can actually be the right play in the long run. And I think it's the same thing with perks, because again, this is where you can tell the people who've never actually watched like season 6 or something where you could properly side lane in LEC. Because, dude, they think that the person who side lanes who's strong never should die. That's never even been a thing. Like, first of all, you die sometimes just to fucking bring them up, make them actually honour you and go all the way to the top lane and like fucking gank you, at which point maybe your other team does something cross-map. Or you do it sometimes just to like, again, maybe you waste one of their ults, you waste one of their flashes. Like, there's a million factors that go to it. And then on top of that, if the one time they don't come, you don't back off, you get all this insane advantage. Like, they think themselves, oh, he has to back off now, and you don't. That's the one time you keep pushing. So that's why, to me, you actually can't take all those moments and isolate them. You actually have to look in the string of the game. What was that person trying to do? Like Rich says, what win condition did they think they had at that point in the game? And by the way, did they win the game at the end? If they won the game at the end, some of those ints actually might be entirely redeemable in a way that they might not be if a fan's just going, but I would never do that. Like, here's the difference I'll say. If you watch when tactical ints on Team Liquid, that's very different from a fucking perks int. There's almost nothing coming out of a tactical int. You just hope he doesn't die. As Rich says, some of the perks ints, it's like, by the way, there's even ones where, I remember in one of those tiebreaker games, it was like a millisecond for fucking dying on LeBlanc when he like did the fucking distortion back in or whatever. But like, that's the whole thing. He's trying to play to the limit. He's not trying to play safe. So one of the reasons if people still don't get it, I'm not a huge Reckless fan, because the problem with Reckless is this: he takes what he's given. So as a result, if he has a game where no one gives him a chance to win the game, he just goes, it's like that meme, like, well, understandable, thank you very much, sir, and just goes home. Like, I don't get that. I like the guys who, when they see there's nothing coming out the game, they're like, right, I'll have to risk looking like a dickhead, and I might actually just throw this game. But that's also the only way I can win this game. I've got to actually go balls. I've got to do some ridiculous play, which, by the way, Caps has done a million times if you've ever watched him play. He's gone for it so many times. One thing I would say back on the mad topic is this. I kind of agree with the way you set it up, actually, Rich. Even though people are going to go, how is it possible that Koreans could ever not be the best at everything? It's not that they're not the best. They actually might be the best team in most regards in this tournament. It's just that Mad is unbelievably good at two things. One is like mid-game team fighting. Like, Kaiser is just a fucking genius, man. I don't know how he finds these like engages and these angles that he comes in on. You can tell some of the other teams think it's just a normal support, and they're just like, what the fuck? He's literally just can't jump all over our entire team. What? I thought there wasn't even an angle for that. And then the other thing is, you know, everyone just labels it. This is how you know everyone on Reddit just reads other things people on Reddit have said. It's sort of like a recycle moron fucking neural network. Is they never come up with any fresh angles on it. They just say the same thing. So everyone goes, Mad Lions is really good at comebacks. Right, well, we've now seen a million of them. So do you have any more? Do you have any explanation of that? Like, here's the thing. After watching them play, it isn't just that, like, when they're down, they, like, activate some power spike. Like, now we can win because we're underdog. What it is this. They just make more correct decisions in the mid-game than the other team. And I'll tell you what, if you know anything about League of Legends, it's been a long time since you just smashed the lane and you've got an insurmountable lead in the fucking game, as Rogue shows you, by the way. So if you watch Mad Lions play, their premise is this. Like, if we make, like, 7 out of 8 decisions correctly in the mid-game, yeah, we're probably back in any match at that point. Like, there's not that many gold leads are insurmountable. I definitely agree with what was said earlier. Like, the game of League of Legends, you absolutely, with rare exceptions, almost everyone fucks up in the game now. There's none of those Korean perfect games where from point A to Z, you just do every move correctly, you always use priority correctly, you always have control. That doesn't exist. Like, half of these games, it's why actually I think teams like Mad Lions at times look fantastic. It was always up for grabs in the fucking mid-game. There was, even when you're behind, there's still things you can do. You still got some agency. So, yeah, to me, the problem there, I'll bring it all the way back because it sounds like I've hyped it like Mad Lions can win there. I do also think that Damon's definitely going to win. And here's the thing, there is a world where it could be 3-0, but I'll give this caveat. If it's a 3-0, it could also be one of the closest 3-0s you've ever seen. Like, they could take them in distance. The problem is I think Damon's just a better team. And then the downside is this. One of the players just this year, that I don't fuck with on Mad Lions is Kazi. I think he's had some pretty questionable games. And the problem is, everyone knew this even coming into Worlds. The one area you potentially could expose, fucking damn one, is the bot lane. And I don't really know that they've got the team to do it, unfortunately. So I'm just going with damn one for that one. But not only is Gen.G like questionable in best of 5 series, but even better, right? All the criticism of Perks this year, all the 11 million X memes, all the people like, well, he didn't win every game this year, did he? Like, all the people like that. Can you even imagine? How are they going to keep watching League of Legends if Perks just makes semi-finals or better 4 years in a row from 2 different roles and in 2 different continents? Like, at that point in time, it's going to be, listen, you can always hate on someone. I've basically made a whole career out of hating on Reckless, TSM. But here's the thing, you got to be creative, boys. You got to come with a fresh angle. I don't know what angle you're going to have left if in this universe Cloud9 actually wins this series, which I'm not saying is going to happen. I'm saying I'm picking it because of the odds. If that happens, everyone just has to shut, at least for a week, everyone just has to shut the fuck up. Perks can basically at that point in time just post a picture of his fucking ass cheeks. Like, there's nothing any he can do. Like, it's just over at that point. How's anyone, by the way, and how is anyone ever going to trash talk him ever again? Like, he would have the most god tier Twitter clout status of all time. He already has a pretty good one, by the way. Like, I like that tweet he made too. I think it was Cadrel or something, where Cadrel was making some comment about like EU getting out of groups. And he was basically made some comment that was sort of like, I am EU. It's like, all right, fucking hell. I mean, you are, but I can't lie, it's pretty gangster. So, okay, let's talk about this series now. Foxdrop, where are we starting on this one? Like, for example, obviously, they're not an LEC team. Listen, I will say, like, half the players are LEC players, and they got Mythy as a coach. So, like, there's a reason you can be biased if you want. Do you actually think Cloud9 can win this series?
Yeah, I think they can win. I think Gen.G is probably one of the weaker teams coming into quarters, alongside Mad Lions and Cloud9. I think if you're looking to take someone down and make a run into the semis, Gen.G is probably your best bet, honestly. And what we've seen out of Cloud9, it's nothing amazing, but I think they can pull it together. Yeah, why not? Like, I definitely don't think it's like an insurmountable hill for you to go up against Gen.G. And as you say, not the greatest in best of 5s. I do have that historically playing against them, which I'm sure we'll hear that narrative plenty of times on the Riot broadcast. I just want to see NA like shit on kids. I just do. I think it's good banter. So yeah, I'm all on the Cloud9 hype train as well.
Where are you at, Rich?
I mean, I think Gen.G will win. I think if I had to bet, I would say 3-1 Gen.G. But I do agree that I don't think they're like that good. I don't see it as like a David versus Goliath or something like that. Like to be honest, in the context of Worlds, I think they're 2 not great teams, and I think Gen.G is a little bit better than Cloud9. I think that where I would be worried for Cloud9 is sort of alluding to something I said before, which is I kind of expect this will be a series where Ruler and Life come to life, as it were. I think they'll probably be able to exert themselves pretty heavily over the series. I think up until this point, as I said, I think this World has definitely just been basically about mid-jungle, if not just topside in general. But if the series does become about, Blabber going to have to help out bot in any kind of sort of reactionary way, I think the series is completely doomed, because I think that Gen.G do have a huge advantage in bot lane. I think when it comes to BDD, I think he's played well during the groups, and obviously I think he's a good player. I don't see it as, a big mid diff or something like that, though, and that's not just, off the back of some decent performances from Perks or something. I think that Perks plays to the level of his opponents quite a lot, and I expect that Perks will have like a pretty good series, so I actually think mid will probably be somewhat of a wash. So yeah, I think that this series is more, I feel like C9 should try and play around Perks if they can. I think the bot side should try and play sort of more conservatively. And I think if you can give Perks a position where he gets priority and he gets to dictate as and where skirmishes take place, then that's C9's best window to win for sure. Like, if Perks is able to be put in a position where he's making decisions about what fights C9 can and can't take, that is for sure their win condition, in my opinion. I think if it becomes about bot lane, then Gen.G will probably 3-0. And if I was Gen.G, I would definitely be game planning to play around bot, because I think they have a huge advantage there.
Even though I did literally just bet on Cloud9, metaphorically, I actually have certain rules as to how I make predictions in the sense of, like, if I'm actually saying who's going to win. Like, if people don't know, what I always do, which is in line with the sponsor, I just bet based on the odds. Like, if I think the odds are, like, way too generous, I pick that. Like, basically, if people don't know, I did a whole bunch of bets of Cloud9 and Rogue to beat actually the big favourites in their group, because every time I was getting fucking, like, 5 and 6 odds and stuff. So if people don't know how odds work, like, I mean, if you write 1 out of 5 times, like, I can actually do that a whole bunch, and it turned out I was actually right, like 2 times, so in the end it would have actually been like a plus. It would be like net positive at the end, even though I didn't win most of the bets. That's how betting works. I know I've just blown people's minds there, but the point I was going to make is this: one of my rules when I'm an analyst, like when I work in CSGO and I'm having to pick the teams, is one thing I don't do is, even if I actually think like the win conditions are there, like you could win, there's factors that could, I always do look at the players, and if I don't trust certain players, I never bet on them. So, like, for example, one of the reasons generally, I've alluded to them earlier, obviously won't talk about much because they're not in the round of 8. One of the reasons I've never really gone all in on this TL lineup, who I do think have some fabulous pieces and some real potential, is because I know at some point I can actually rely that Tactical will do one of those really mental ints where he just jumps into the middle of a fight and gets instantly deleted. And he's my fucking ADC. So my problem is this. People probably know where I'm going with this one. I can't trust Blabber. Not in 5 games. Like, listen, he will definitely prove me wrong for a game or two. He might even had a game in this series where he just goes absolutely nuts and carries the whole thing from beginning to end and looks amazing. But I tell you what, after seeing enough of it, I don't trust this guy. I'm sorry, I just don't. And I want to tie this actually into the discussion we were having before Foxdrop and see where people want to go here. Because when you come up with that whole intangibles thing, one, in sports culture, it definitely is thrown out way too much. And classically, as you say, it's usually used as like an excuse as to why like an old great player who isn't good now should be allowed to be on like one of the best teams, whereas really, like, we're speculating. We don't really know if that guy had anything in the locker room for all we know. He doesn't give a fuck and he's just cashing out for his last year. Could be, right? The problem is, though, I do think I understand why the term exists, because actually players like Perks, and I'll go the other way around, I'll take someone like, I would say, the problem is when I say choker, it's such a harsh term, but I would say historically, I mean, you could maybe put Odo on there here. If you take another rogue player, Larsen's a classic one, of course. If you want to take people that are called chokers, right? In my opinion, clutch and choke, which typically do get thrown around too much. If you really do find a player, though, who like embodies that, it's just who they become in the big moment. That's actually way more reliable than you'd expect. Because I've known tons of analysts. I've done this myself in CSGO. It's like I looked at the game and I was like, okay, he did play badly in this game. But the next time they play, but the win conditions are there again. Like, actually, you know, if that was just a one bad game, this time he is the favourite and they should win in this way and they've got the right player. I'll tell you what, that will betray you, because what you're sort of doing there is you're doing it like a scientist. Like, if this was just X random game played in totally, you know, like sterile conditions, they should win. But the problem is we know pressure is a real thing. It's not literally, it's, you know, metaphorically a real thing. But like, basically it is going to be the case for people, except for rare examples like Foxdrop said. Like, there are some players who just seem impervious to it. And I'll tell you what, as mad as it is, that trend of like the guy who's clutch seems to continually come through in the clutch, and the guy who chokes, if anything, even chokes too often. Even you just think, can't you just trip over and bloody have a good game once? Like that, those somehow do hold. I know it's crazy because it's kind of a bit woo-woo, but I have to say, from all my years in esports, you are asking for a fucking bad time if you bet against the guys who somehow just always come through, no matter what the game situation looks like. And for me, actually, Mad Lions and Rogue are the two ends of this spectrum at the moment. Like, they're great examples, all Perks. So, gentlemen, do you want to talk about this topic a little bit? What about this, Rich? Do you have any thoughts on that? Obviously, Fox got games a little bit earlier.
I mean, I think on the Mad Rogue thing is like a classic example in the sense that, and I remember saying previously that I wasn't necessarily sure that Rogue were chokers or not, in the sense that I felt like Larsen, for example, sometimes actually just did all the things that he normally does. It's just that a lot of those things are actually really bad, and that he doesn't get punished until it comes playoff stage and better mid laners basically exploit him. Like, this guy still has no idea how to play when he's not in his own lane. But I also think that there is definitely an element of, I don't know if I'd call it choke or whatever, but there's an element of unreliability for sure. And I think this comes down to a tweet actually that Kaiser made, where I think it was after a regular season game where they were 7k gold down to Rogue or something. He said, 7k gold down to Rogue is my comfort zone. But I actually would like inverse that tweet and say 7k gold up is Rogue's uncomfortable zone.
Right.
That's like how I kind of see it. And I think while Mad are really good at, as you say, like going into mid game, maybe they make 7 out of 8 decisions correctly. A team like Rogue is making like 3 out of 8 decisions correctly. And whether you want to call it choke or apply any other adjective to it, doesn't really matter. I think the umbrella term I would use is reliability. And obviously reliability is more important, obviously, the higher the stakes get. And I think if you're a really good team with really good players, especially, mechanically, or have like pretty good team fighting, then you can still do all these things and win. For example, if Rogue are playing a regular season game and they're playing against a bottom half of the table team, they might still make these decisions and win. Just because they're better at the game. And that's why I rather use the term unreliability than choking, just because I'm genuinely not sure to what extent they crumble under the pressure, or to what extent over a series, whether it be an LEC playoffs or at Worlds or whatever, that actually they're just not that good at the key macro elements that mean that would make them a good team, right? But again, I think Mad are the opposite. I think Mad are macro experts, but I'm more sure about how good Mad's mental is than I am sure about how bad Rogue's mental is. Okay. So I just put it under the banner of unreliability. But yeah, I think for sure that's obviously like a very real thing. And as Foxdrop said, I wouldn't like always call these things as like intangibles or whatever. When it's someone like Perks, it's obviously very obvious and very real that this guy brings way more than just his pure ability to the game. That if you don't believe that at this point, you're a moron. I also find it kind of annoying and, for lack of a better word, triggering when people try and offer up other suggestions like Caps as the Western GOAT and stuff like if you think it's even close, then we can't talk about it. Like it to me, it's like the gap now is so astronomical that it's almost like the gap that most people think Faker has over like the next best player, right? It's like, no, it to me, yeah, it's there's so much that an individual can offer to a team beyond just their skill on the Rift.
Put it this way, I used to basically, because obviously I was a big Froggen fan, and back in the old school days, the real rivalry was Expeke Froggen, right? That was the two contrasts, because the playing styles are so different. The team setups are always so different, because Expeke always had loads of really good teammates, and then Froggen famously would be like, he had some all right ones and some that were a little bit dodgy. And so it was like the classic thing of like, oh, if my guy had the proper teammates, he'd beat Yoga. But what I actually realised over time, and this is something I think applies to Perks definitely, is people like Caps, you might play with him if he's at his absolute best. You want to play with a good player, right? People like Perks and Expeke, you want to play with at any time, because they just have some mad charisma that almost like exudes out of the server. And like, not only are people fans of them, but players just want to be on these people's teams. Like, players have a sense from playing them as well and watching that, like, I'm just going to win somehow. I don't know how, but if I'm on this guy's team, we will just win. Like, and we'll win in scenarios where it's unlikely or where he's maybe not even in good form. Like, that is it. That's the reason I even made this point. That's why the whole like $11 million meme is actually stupid, because not only did you buy someone who basically would only be sold at that kind of price because they're like worth their weight in gold, so you have to overpay. If you know anything about sports, you always overpay for the best player, because why the fuck would I let the best player go unless you pay me like a king's ransom? That's why in football they keep breaking the records for the best striker all the time, because the whole point is he is so absurdly good. It's not a normal market, is there? There's like two people in the market and you make them pay the absolute maximum amount, or you keep him. That's how you get your value. There's never going to be, like, you can't really take the money you got from that guy and then buy the next best player. Like, it doesn't work. He's not going to be as good. And then the other thing as well for me is it's the implied value of buying Perks. Like, not only is there the meme of like he can poach everyone, by the way, that's real. He's like the best GM to ever play fucking League of Legends. But secondly, the other factor is like people just want to be on your team now. People just want to be on that guy's team. That is a mad attractive factor. Like what you'll get out of that is way more than you'll ever see in the server. And by the way, even when they do those like documentaries, they're never going to really capture like the things that make that guy so like iconic, or people just like, that's why my term for it is he's just like a talisman, dude. Like everywhere he goes, he can't help but fucking succeed. I don't think people have really looked at the numbers. Like, pick out his bad games and all I'll do is hit you with stats like never failed to qualify for Worlds, make it like, again, like 4 years straight in the playoffs. Like, mate, the numbers are ridiculous. All those game 4 stats, like this guy, it's beyond a joke. And then we just added in, remember, everyone's telling us, by the way, accurately, probably the worst split of his career, right? The worst split of his career involves still making it to Worlds and then getting out of the most impossible group ever assembled, probably the best like underdog group escape in the history of the tournament. Like, if that's the guy's fucking bad split, well, God forbid he ever gets good again, TSM fans. What the fuck are you going to do? You didn't even make it a Worlds. How are you still talking shit now? How are you still talking? I get it. Listen, everyone can talk shit, but like, you do look a bit silly at this point if you're still hating on Perks. Like, come on, man. What more does he have to do? What more does he have to do? What do you think, Foxdrop?
Drag NA into quarterfinals, then yeah. I mean, you've got to be doing something right. It's fair enough in the regular season, honestly.
Yeah, of course.
He didn't really play that well, and this is the thing, is like how in esports, it's probably like this in like all facets of life, but in esports especially, everything's like either one way or another. It's all black and white. There's no middle ground. So when Perks is popping off, it's like, how could you even doubt Perks, man? This is the best player in the history of the West that we've ever produced. Of course, like he's amazing. He's worth every penny, and then he plays crap. It's like, why would you even waste all that money on someone like Perks? He obviously doesn't care. He's just going there to retire. There's no middle ground. And so like the whole split was between like Perks is completely overrated, not worth it, and Perks is amazing, and this is why you buy him. And now we're getting to the point where, you know, I don't think you buy Perks to win NA. Like, Cloud9 can do that anyway, or they can try to do that anyway. You know, you don't need Perks to do that. But if you want to make a dent in the international tournaments, you know, or you know, once you get into Worlds, or if you can make it to MSI, that's where you want a player like Perks in your team. And he's shown you exactly why in this World Championship, dragging his team kicking and screaming over into the quarterfinals. And as Rich said as well, if there is some kind of hope for Cloud9 in the quarters against Gen.G, then I think a lot of it obviously comes down to Perks and his ability to, even just the way you describe it, Rich, is like so bang on, because if he can dictate things, if he can decide the skirmishes, if he can control the game, then Cloud9 stand a chance. A lot of that starts in the draft, and without Lucky, that's more like, you know, detailed stuff. But either way, like, it's about him. You know, it's about Perks. It's on him to really kind of control that game in that sense. And that's why he spent $11 million, because and fair play, honestly, to Jack and like the Cloud9 crew, who've had enough, I guess, of just winning NA. They actually want to do a little bit more, and so they open the wallet, get a player like Perks, and it's the best chance of doing it.
You know, the funniest...
No, by the way, I can confirm, absolutely, Jack is absolutely already was happy with the decision, but now this is, like you say, this is why he actually got him, by the way. You phrased it exactly how you said it. He didn't get him to just win LCS. As you say, he's done that before, but the problem is, who the fuck wants to win LCS, then go to Worlds and go, we're irrelevant. Like, he wanted this, where you feel like you've at least got, in America, they say, you want to have a sweat. You at least want to like feel like there's a chance in the game, like there's something to give you some tension. Not like those matches in all the past Worlds where it's like, well, obviously going to lose to this team. Like, there's no chance. Yeah, go on, Rich. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say the funniest thing about the Perks is bad thing, and like, to be honest, like during the split or whatever, or when people were giving their opinions on was he worth X, is he worth Y, like was it a bad decision? Like I didn't pay too much credence for it, and I didn't even necessarily think that the questions were like unjustified. Like I would disagree, but I thought certain performances warranted asking questions. Sure, absolutely. The weirdest thing about it was the timing of like that super popular upvoted thread that got like
the accountability one or whatever.
It was just such bizarre timing, because Cloud9 had made playoffs, they were still in playoffs, and there was still like a very real possibility that they were going to make Worlds. Like, it was just so weird. And it was like, so up until this point, let me get this straight. In the first split, he just wins, right? And in the second split, he's probably going to secure qualification for Worlds, and then we don't know what will happen. Obviously, they won't go into Worlds as a favorite or something. They might end up in the group of death, which they did, which he then gets out of. It's like, why do people do this to themselves? Like, the timing of it was so stupid. This guy was asking for like a divine intervention to like make him look like a fool. It was just so bizarre, and I just couldn't get enough of it when all the people just immediately started bandwagoning on this opinion, like this was some geniusly like well put together, succinct opinion on the reality of Perks in his career. And it's like, there's about a 2% chance you ever get vindicated for this. Like, it was just bizarre. And then like a week later, he put in like some insane 1v9 playoff performance that put them in position to qualify for the next series. Like, I don't know, that will go down. That guy is sat there in some basement in deep regret.
Of course. He's probably the one just now like, yeah, but they're still only going to make quarters. Remember, you can never beat the hater. Like the hater just fucking just uses like a eraser on his whiteboard, just writes a new thing and like, now there's a new reason I hate you. No, the thing is, here's another fact. This is another reason why Perks is a win condition. Because everyone loves to throw the term around constantly, even though it's just such a fucking ephemeral concept of confidence. You got to be confident. People say it as though you can all just gather together in a room and hypnotize each other and go, we are now confident. We will win. The problem they don't realise, I've made this point on so many shows, but fans always forget it because obviously we don't see the scrims, is scrims are probably the worst fucking thing that could happen to Western teams at Worlds. Because what happens is, you fly to Korea, maybe you've won your region, you've been watching the games, you maybe even like the rest of us been watching LCK VODs going, they're not actually that good this year, I think we could beat them. And then what happens is, you arrive, you play 2 weeks of scrims, in which usually all Asian players, except for like, I don't know, fucking Taiwan or whatever, just absolutely dumpster you for 2 straight weeks. I told people, I've even heard stories where, first of all, back in the day, if you just lost too many times at the beginning, the top Asian teams just go, we're not even scrimming you anymore, it's a waste of our fucking time. But even the ones they didn't, like for example, say it's one of those ones like T1 where now they're sort of westernized and they have some sort of relationship with like American companies and stuff, right? They might just be told, like, just out, like, please play with our friends at 100 Thieves for another week. Then they'll start doing stuff, no joke, like purposely picking the wrong side of a mid lane matchup just to show you, like, you actually psychologically have no chance against me, or like, I'm going to actually purposely counterpick top lane and then shit all over your star top laner and show you, like, don't even waste my time in these scrims. So by the time you come to the real group stage games, every Western fan's like, oh boy, I can't wait to see if 100 Thieves can win. And it's like, motherfucker, that battle was lost 2 weeks ago. Like, this guy doesn't even think he can win this game. In fact, he might even be going in, no joke, with a mindset of like, I'm just going to try not to get showed up. Like, I'm just going to try, like, if they get me early, I'll play safe. Like, if I have to, I flash everything. Like, some of them will, no joke, be going in like that. Like, at least I don't want to look like a fool. Here's the difference. Perks not only doesn't have that. In fact, if you look at his whole career, there was that story from Season 9 Worlds where supposedly G2 was one of the teams that got dumpstered by all the Korean teams. But they still, when they played on stage, you would never have believed it. As you said, Foxdrop, they play like casual. They always look loose. Even when they're down, it always looks like, whatever, forget that game, we can win the next one. So I also think Perks has like the winner's mindset in that sense. Like, until you actually beat him, he doesn't give up the hope that it's possible to win the game still. Like, I believe he's one of the few players who for real thinks he could actually outperform BDD in this matchup, no matter what the scrim results say. And then I'll throw in as well, the reason why this opponent is ideal, which is mad that as a second place team, you could get a team that you have a chance to beat as a Westerner. But this is why it's so brutal for Mad Lions that they didn't get this opponent. Because Gen.G, unlike Damwon, when I was saying earlier about how in all these games, it always feels like the game's alive in the mid-game still. It's still possible. Mate, Gen.G lets fucking teams hang around. Like that Team Liquid game they had in the first round robin, like that game should have been over. All they had to do literally was pushing all the lanes and like Team Liquid just has to literally sit wave clearing. But instead they went for like a mad tower dive that they sort of semi-scoffed. And then suddenly the game was alive for like 15 minutes more. So if Gen.G literally allows games like that to just hang around, someone like Perks is primed to go, right, I can see where's this game can be won. Because there's another thing, I did a video of this in the off-season where I separated players into 2 camps. There's players who are good at League of Legends, the game, in their role. So, for example, you might have a top laner. Alfari's probably the best example of this. If the game was only laning phase, dude, he might be one of the best players in the entire world. Like, he is unbelievably good. The problem is this, because he hasn't been on many winning teams, sometimes, I wouldn't say he actually was that bad, but sometimes I've seen games where it looked like he didn't really know what to do when he got out of lane. Like, how do I actually win this game in a pro match? The difference with Perks is the other way around. He could have a dog shit lane in phase, but as long as he gets a specific item and at a specific point in the game, it's like he can still see what the window is. Like, oh, that's where we could win the game. Right? I've got to do that. And that might be something ridiculous, like some mad base race, or I've got to do a crazy TP flank behind them, whatever it might be. Like, that's a mad win condition to have. Like, there's someone who really does envision how you win the game still. Who is anyone actually taking Cloud9 to win the series, though? Are they still the underdog, Foxdrop?
Yeah, that's still an underdog for sure. I'd say they're underdog, yeah.
Fair enough. Because I do think we have to say something about Gen.G. Then if we're all saying Gen.G is the favourite, we can't then just be like, oh, Perks and Cloud9, and then just be like, But they should. Gen.G should. So what are they good at then? Come on, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, again, we haven't really seen it so far this Worlds, like particularly, but it's got to be like bot lane, as I said before, is like where I feel they will win the series. I think if they play to bot and Cloud9 doesn't respond, and it's tricky, right? And obviously this will depend on draft and all sorts of other variables, but you can't necessarily just trade sides. Like if this was a domestic game or something and you're playing like an LCS opponent and they feel they have a slight edge in bot or whatever, you'd be like, all right, I'll just play towards Perks and we're definitely going to win, right? It's not really that simple. You've obviously got BDD on the other side of the rift, and yeah, so my fear or my prediction, I guess, is that Gen.G obviously know this. They know that the bot lane is probably where they have their biggest advantage, and they're just going to play super heavily to bot. And as you say, it's going to be on Blabber to basically balance the seesaw. And I don't see that happening over 5 games. I do think Cloud9 will win a game. I think they'll win a game of opportunist skirmishing where Perks is able to get priority in his lane and create windows to win fights and get gold leads. I do think that will happen at least once. I also think that after a game, if they clearly Gen.G are just spam heavy to, diving bot 24/7, Cloud9 will have to basically fight fire with fire. Whether that, again, that's Blabber just camping bot or whether that's them going all in on the other side of the map, I don't know. But I do not think that Gen.G are a good enough team that they'll be able to cleanly execute this game after game after game. But I do think there is a sufficient bot gap that if they just play towards that as their win condition, it's difficult for me to believe that Blabber will play well enough for long enough for Cloud9 to win the series. Again, it sounds like I'm now, putting the series on Blabber. Ultimately, I think, if Cloud9 do win the series, it will be because Perks has been enabled. But again, that falls somewhat on Blabber. How well is Blabber going to play? And I basically trust Gen.G to get bot going more than I trust Blabber to get Perks going in response or to defend Sven and Vulcan.
Here's the thing, Foxdrop. The way you know that my podcasts are raw as fuck, but even I've sort of mellowed a little bit over the years. And listen, in contrast to everyone else, obviously I'm wild and I'm still like a motherfucker, but compared to my old days, is because I used to even, anytime anyone brought up that famous thing of like the gap between the West and the East, my joke was, you've missed a letter, it's a gape. And we just leave it at that. The visual picture's made. You don't need anything else more to be said. All I'm saying is Bjergsen was going back to NA every time like fucking wide fucking whippo, wasn't he? He was just walking back. Oh, bloody hell. Oh, not again. Tell you what, this time let's try not qualifying. Anyway, let's move it on. What I'm going to do for my other one, so we can have a discussion about this one, is obviously one of the best matchups of the quarterfinals is the Civil War in the LPL, which is basically the spring champions, RNG, MSI champions, against EDG, fresh summer champions. Obviously, we're looking pretty good right up until the end of that group. And as you'd expect, the odds are fairly even. RNG is a slight underdog. They have 2 as their odds, but EDG themselves have 1.75. So this is one where I actually personally think I'm going to bet the favourite. I'm going to bet EDG because the odds aren't that bad for them actually in this scenario. And even though I do think, and I'm sure there's a lot we can discuss about here, I do think RNG has a very unique playing style. They have the chances here. The matchup's interesting. There's a lot of dynamics we can talk about. When the favourite has a decent enough odds, I tend to prefer to go that way. Also, for people who don't know, DG Sports offers a DeFi program where they operate sort of like a bank, and if you put some crypto in there, they give you 0.8% back per day, which adds up to something like 29% per year, which basically, if you go and look at your bank, I mean, joke's on you, your bank will be giving you fuck all interest. It's nowhere near 29%. Then again, though, obviously it's about how safe you feel that is and how long you'd want it to be in there. So as I always say, caveat emptor, because 1, it's good advice, and 2, it's Latin, so most of you haven't even bothered fucking looking that up. Right, so if we talk now about the series I referenced, the RNG versus EDG series, this is actually, I think, a really interesting one on all levels. Like storylines, there's some really good ones like I laid out there. Analytically, I think it's a great example of where you actually can't in the game. This is a little tip for all my friends out there who are amazing analysts at the game, but fall in this trap constantly. You can't look at tournament form. You can't just go, well, this this team was really good and this team wasn't that great. So I think the team that was really good wins. What you got to ask is things like, what's the playing style? How do they match up against each other? Is there specific lane matchups that will be different from the teams they were playing before? So, Rich, where are you coming down on this one? Like, these two teams, I can see a reason for both to win. So where are you coming down?
Yeah, so I actually I noted down, like, my prediction is EDG 3-2, but this is like the series I feel least confident about picking. I went back and looked at some of like their BO5 in spring, for example, which was also 3-2, but actually 3-2 to RNG. Obviously, they didn't play each other in summer playoffs, but I watched some of their regular season games, and it's a weird. It's like. This is kind of like a gut instinct one. Like, I think it's a 5-game series. It's got 5 games written all over it. The reason I landed on EGG is not actually based on anything other than gut feel, which is I feel like RNG kind of had their number a little bit. And Scout, for example, who I think is actually kind of like a sleeper MVP pick for Worlds at the moment. I think he's playing really well. But sort of people love to focus on, the big 3 like Faker, BDD, and Chovy and Showmaker. So he's not getting as much. But I think he's playing really well. But I actually feel like Crying, while not being as good a mid laner in my opinion, generally, kind of has his number in watching some of these series back. And I think he has some interesting counter picks as well. Like, I mean, Scout's been prioritizing Syndra quite a lot. Obviously, he's like focusing quite a lot on his lane priority at the moment. I don't know if he's going to do that in this matchup, because Cryan was picking things like Corki into him to kind of wrestle that back as like a counter pick. So I think you might get some really weird / interesting picks in mid lane in this matchup. And again, because I think the top side in this world so far has been so important, I think if I was like working at Riot and doing some like feature, I think in terms of storyline and in terms of where the game will be like won and lost, I'm definitely looking at mid lane. And I do think whoever gets, I kind of see it as like the Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira thing, where it's like if one gets over the other one in any given game, even though you've got all the star names at the other end of the pitch, it's like whoever wins that midfield battle is usually the person who silently kind of wins the game. This probably won't be as silent. It'll probably be more obvious, but yeah, I don't know. The reason why I'm going EDG over RNG is I guess that it's impossible that EDG can't be aware of kind of how the matchups recently have been going historically. And because Scout is such a good player, and I do think he's better than Cryan, that even though I think there is an element of we have your number, I think EDG will just have it a bit more worked out this time. I think they've got enough to go on that I think when they're both playing well, EDG is just the slightly better team.
What do you think?
Well, I'm going to say very, very candidly, I don't know as much about these two teams as Rich.
Fair enough.
Because that was a pretty good good breakdown. But having said that, I have built a career as an analyst of making people believe that I know what I'm talking about. Exactly.
Well, here's the thing, though. You at least saw them in this tournament. So what are your thoughts based on the limited information you have?
So I think like for sure, hands down, this is going to be the closest series. I think both these two teams are closest in skill level compared to any of the other matchups that we have in quarterfinals. And I think it's going to be another 5-game series as well. From what we saw in the group stages too, I think that RNG and EDG, in the first week, both are really good, whatever. And I know you said recent form, whatever, you don't want to look at that too much, but I think in the losses, like, because both of these teams in week 2 didn't or their second round robin didn't have quite as good of a showing. And I think when they were losing, RNG looked shakier to the extent where you can like. I think there are more elements where you can exploit them. Like when I was watching them, it seemed more like, okay, RNG, what are you doing, compared to EDG, which is more. I don't really know the best way to describe it, but that's more like the kind of like atmosphere I get from watching these two teams. And I also do think, sure, Cryan's not quite as good, and Scout's. I think Scout's really good actually. But I think when you've got players like Xiaohu on your team, who've always coming through. For me, like he's similar caliber to Perks, I would say, as like the type of player that he is. He's always able to pull through. So I don't think he always has the best lane phase. He's very good at it. Don't get me wrong; it's quite hard to actually put him down. But coming out of the lane phase, watching Xiaohu, who have big moments, like he's more of like the reliable type of player that you were describing, Rich. So for me, when I see that, that's what gives me more hope to like give the edge to RNG. I think he'll come in huge. He's been playing since the dawn of time, and he's been in so many of these situations. He is absolutely no rookie in, not the player rookie, but he's been around, right? He knows what he's doing in these situations. So I think that's going to be the difference, considering how like the tournament meta is kind of shaping out as well. Being able to play around Xiaohu is going to be pretty beneficial. But like I said, it's going to be really close, and I would not be surprised if EDG came out on top. But if it's not 5 games, I'd be pretty surprised.
This is actually a rare example of where I am going to pick against the intangibles, because I agree, actually. I think Xiaohu's another player I would put in that category of, like, just knows how to win game of League of Legends. In this case, obviously, from another fucking role as well. Because he's another player where, even when they make their picks, etc., it's not that he always thinks he's going to smash the lane, it's just that he knows what he's going to be able to do later in the game if he gets the items on that champion. And you see, basically, he's able to be his own, like, top lane Uzi High. Like, he just demands all the resources, all the attention, jungle will come anytime I want. But here's the thing, you can put all your eggs in that basket, because the guy does fucking carry the game. He does like help you win the matches. So the problem is, I think the intangibles are on the RNG side. Like, they do have 2 amazing players in Ming, the support player, and Xiao, who is top player. Like, those are just 2 players with massive experience, both really, really skilled. And they also do seem, based on the interviews I've read, like they are basically sort of the brains of the team and operate, like, because the others are all like way less experienced. Some of them, quite frankly, just not like world-class players for me. So the way they are all sort of able to keep people in line is impressive. The problem is, I think when you go and look at EDG, I think EDG just have better players, and as long as they can play like their team fight style, it's just going to be hard to beat them. So I already thought they had some pretty good players in, obviously, Viper and Scout, but Mako has always been a very good support player. And actually, for this Worlds, I actually thought their jungler was looking way better than he had in the LPL. So I think their team is just too good, unfortunately. This is a case of where, like we set up before about Damwon versus Mad Lions, the whole thing of like, wow, when they do well in this type of a game, you have to get to that type of a game though. And I feel like in this particular series, I could just see a world where EDG's just a better team across the board, and then they win the team fight. So I'd love to believe in the romantic story of RNG. I actually do like them as a dark horse for the tournament, but I think EDG is really good. I think they're like a true tournament favourite, and they deserve to probably win this and go to the finals. And hopefully, I would say, if you just want the best final possible, I hope it's the Damwon EDG match. I think that would be the one where actually could give us all the fireworks. And actually, I don't know who would win that. I'd be very interested to see it. So, do we have anything more on this matchup, or should we go to one of the others?
I think whoever wins will be in finals. That's it.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I think like the barometer for this as well for me when I was looking at it was also kind of using, I guess, what I know best and sort of trying to theory craft what I think would happen. And my conclusion in my head, even though if you look at the recent history, it actually favors RNG in the team versus team matchup. I was thinking, who would I want Mad to play against? Because I feel like that's a team that I really know all their strengths and weaknesses super well. And I think Mad would beat RNG, and I think they would lose to EDG. So that was kind of my final decision-making process, even though, as I said, I mean, again, I'd rather bet on it going 5 games than I would bet on either team winning, but I think EDG edges.
So obviously there's one matchup left, and it's the one where, listen, if you thought it was bad, Foxdrop, that I don't watch the LPL, there's no fucking way, aside from maybe the file, you watch this, and I wouldn't blame you, right? Who the fuck, aside from the Gauntlet, would want to watch HLE versus T1? Unfortunately, it's one of the least sexy matchups. Like, if people don't know, it's not like T1 were monsters, but they looked pretty good in the group stage, and obviously people know the name and some of the players and big name players. The problem is, Hanwha Life basically has 2 factors that literally Deft and Chovy as to why anyone really even would want to watch this team play, because those are classically world-class players. They're even very good at the moment, and they're obviously historical players that you want to see win worlds, blah, blah, blah. The problem is the Hanwha Life is pretty fucking dreadful aside from that. Like, this is a team where, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, like, this is good. I know obviously Western teams have made round of it, and who knows what Cloud9 will do, so it's possible like the worst team might not be Hanwha Life, but like on paper, there's no way this team should be in the quarterfinals of Worlds. And realistically, I know no one could know what would happen, but barring some enormous meltdown, not on Twitter, like this would have been like Fnatic. Like this would have been where they would have been second in the group, and you come out like Hanwha Life got like one of the biggest freebie of all time. They snuck in as the fucking playing team, and then got, in theory, the number 2 pool team. Just had a scenario where they just weren't going to be able to get out of the groups because literally, by the way, one of their focal point players was ripped out the lineup. That's the part no one talks about with Fnatic. It isn't just that like a good player went. It's basically like the best laner. You took out the whole fucking heart of the team. So I have to say, like, I'm not that hyped for this matchup. And as a result, like I alluded to it before, I don't blame anyone if they haven't watched these teams playing, if you're just only going off Worlds or whatever factors you want. So, Rich, where do you go on this one? T1 versus Hanwha?
Yeah, so actually, I actually think if Cloud9 played Hanwha, they would have a decent shot. I'd give it like 60-40 to Hanwha, but I actually think Cloud9 would, if someone bet on Cloud9 and they were playing Hanwha, I wouldn't laugh at them at all. I do not think, I think they are possibly the worst team in quarters, second worst team at best. I've gone like SKT 3-0/3-1. I think this series is about two things mainly. I think there's a pretty big jungle difference in SKT's favor. I just think Oner has looked so much better than Willa. I think if you look at the early sort of jungle pathing and exchanges between Willa and Bwipo, for example, in both their games, I mean, Bwipo basically hard jungle diff this guy both games. And outside of that, I don't think he's really done much. He's also prioritizing Lee Sin to the extent that in every single game they played, I think that's correct. If it's not, it's bar one. Lee Sin's either been banned or he's picked it. And he has not justified that approach in draft at all in his gameplay. Like, he's been playing against in matchups where he should, in theory, have the early advantage, and he's been getting invaded. Like, the jungle, Willow to me has been a disaster this Worlds, and I think SKT is going to have a huge edge there. And the second thing that I think this series hinges on, I say hinges as if it's going to be close. I don't think it'll be close. But I think the second most important aspect is Faker understanding what his role is in 2021. And that's not any disrespect to him whatsoever, but he needs to understand, as he has done, I think, to be fair, so far this World, but his job is not to match Chovy in this series. It's just not. His job is to be a facilitator, to be useful, to play control mages and possibly TF, something where, because, you know, even though I'm basically saying, please don't play, you know, assassins or something that requires you to, you know, go out and make solo plays. It's not that I don't think he's mechanically competent at this stage in his career, but he is still one of the smartest players in the game, and he needs to play a facilitative role where he is able to create windows, again, similar to Perks in his matchup, to create skirmishes and to create opportunities and picks for his team, not for himself. If at any point he decides that he's going to have a bruised ego if he doesn't go toe-to-toe with Chovy, that's one of the ways where SKT could fall into a trap hole and the series goes backwards. If those two things stay true, as I think they will, I think Oner will be over Willa in this matchup for sure. And if Faker just doesn't play towards his ego but keeps playing for the team as he has been up to this point, so I trust that he still will, then I see zero reason why SKT won't win this series fairly comfortably. And yeah, I say 3-0 or 3-1 at worst.
Yeah, where are you going on this one, Vox?
Yeah, I completely agree with like 3-0, 3-1. To add on top of why I think that T1 have such an advantage, like, you know, with the meta being how it is, top side very, very favored towards T1. I don't think Willa's been very good, as you mentioned. Morgan as well. I actually think Morgan's laning has been better than what people kind of maybe like community perception is of him. But coming out of the lane phase, he seems a little like he seems a little lost. He doesn't really know what his role is in the game in order for like how he can bring positive factors to Hanwha to accelerate them into victory. Like, he just doesn't. He's almost like a non-factor, and it's like he can contribute if the rest of his team are like doing well, and like if he can just like tag along and help out almost, then Morgan can do some things. But I've not really been impressed by that. The biggest thing for me, the biggest question when it comes to this matchup is for Hanwha. They're underdogs, I would say for sure. Who is going to step up? Like, who's going to be the guy that puts the team on their shoulders, or like just like commands the team, or just like who is the guy on Hanwha? Because you've got Chovy, who I'm not being impressed on seeing Worlds. Like Lane Kingdom is brilliant, but he has not had the same level of impact and pressure as someone. We've said Perks a million times, so we'll just use that example. Like he's not an X Factor player. Like he just isn't. And I think with Deft and Vista in the bot lane, they've done fine as well. I think Deft especially is he's a great player, but I just don't think the meta's in the place where he's going to be the one to carry as well. So I just don't think Hanwha has that X factor to really push them over to overcome, to overcome the underdog situation that they're in. And I think as players like T1 are just going to be better. For me, like I said at the beginning, it's going to be a 3-0 or a 3-1. I don't have much expectation for Hanwha here. I would say they're the worst team in quarters. You said they're worst or second worst, Rich. Who would you say is worse than Hanwha?
Well, it's between them and Cloud9, right? Like, okay. I can't honestly say that I definitely think Cloud9 will win if they have a best of 5. So I've got to kind of put them like 1A and 1B when it comes to the worst teams. But I think a series between those two would be pretty 50-50. And when was the last time you could say that, an NA team went against an Eastern team and were arguably favorites, but certainly not like massive underdogs. So yeah, I think they are weak.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I agree as well. I'd like to see a best of 5 between Cloud9 and Hanwha. I think that'd be pretty fun to watch. But yeah, I just whenever there's like an underdog story, you need an X factor. You don't overcome being the underdog by just kind of like cruising through, coasting along, and just finding a way to win. Like that does the good teams do that. The best teams do that when they have an off game. The worst teams just don't. They just you need to have that X factor if you do want to pull something out and to win. And I think this is why this is a bit of a tangent here, but I think this is why community perception and to a degree analysts as well are really high on players like Leader. Now I know we're talking about Worlds, and I've found a way to bring up Leader, but I think he's really interesting to talk about because he is an X Factor player. He is a player that he can find those windows where he'll get that pick, he'll win that side lane fight, he'll get that 1v1. He'll find a way to do that, even in matchups where he shouldn't. I remember him soloing Larson. I think it was like Lucian into I think it was Lucian into Syndra. I think it was that matchup. Either way, wasn't in the winning matchup. Still found a way to solo him and just absolutely destroyed the lane. Don't get me wrong, Leader has lots of faults as a pro player, but he is an X Factor player, and he is someone where if it's always fun to watch him and his teams because even if they are the underdogs, even if they're up against it, there's a chance, right? And I just don't see any player like that on Hanwha, and so that's why I just think, it's just not going to happen against T1. It's not going to cut it.
The problem behind what I have at the moment is that the best performing player is actually Deft, which is like a fucking theme of his career, unfortunately. But this is just not the meta where you can like 1v9 from fucking ADC. And it's not like he has the best bot lane in the world anyway. So unfortunately, I think that's like not a non-starter there. The Chovy angle, I agree. I think it's been underwhelming. Look, he hasn't been terrible. It's not like he's like, oh my God, he's nowhere near what people said. But like the whole premise of this team is because you look at some of the other teammates and you're like, wow, fuck the way this team was built. The one thing you want is like, just give this guy everything he wants and tell him just go fucking ham. Just own everyone. And in fact, just make it so it's like, even though you lose, we're like, you are sick though. You should have a way better team. He's been like a little bit lackluster. Like I know people are going to go, what are you talking about? Look at that second week. Like they got fucking boosted by their group. One, Fnatic didn't even come with a team that could really play. RNG limped through the group despite being the top place team. And then basically the PSG Talon team looked like they never even turned up to Worlds, mate. Like team was supposed to be a lot better than this if you saw like how they were playing at MSI without even the real lineup. So to me, that group was very lackluster and they just basically turned it on in the second week, which remember, the second week always means the day you just play it all on one day. So that means all you have to have is one good day to get out of that one. It's why actually Worlds is exciting, but at the same time there's a lot of upsets. Because that first phase where you play one game per day, it's like classic League of Legends, right? We prep, we change things, all that. Like that one's just like who's good on the day, which is good for excitement, but it also means people tend to get a bit boosted based on one day's play. So I don't think Hanwha's going to do anything this series. I think you nailed it actually, Rich, with the fact that like, specifically because there aren't good enough players in terms of the other roles around Chovy. There's no reason that Faker even has to be tested as, is he the better mid laner? If this was like 2 even teams with really good players, then actually that would be what you'd have to say to Faker. You'd have to go, right, be the better mid laner, win the lane, actually get some counter picks, like do something with them, right? Now, I actually think you're totally right. First of all, it does look like Faker very much facilitated his team. And since his team is better than Hanwha, why even try and go in the ego matchup? Just basically get your team ahead, playing some shit like TF that's perfect for it, and then just win the game. At that point in time, Chovy can go home and just fucking write on the chalkboard all of his CS leads he had that did nothing, never won the match. Like, because I do think that is a problem I have. I already had a problem basically when LS first started hyping him as the best player in the world last year, because when I would watch the games, it's like I alluded to with the old knock on Alfari. It was like, right, you might actually be the best laner, like you do look incredible, but what happens once you get out of that scenario? Like, how do you win the game with it? How do you always push your lead and apply it somewhere on the map? And I always got a similar vibe with Chovy, actually. You have to remember, this guy played with Tarzan, who I think is an actual legit genius. When he hasn't had him as a player, he sometimes does look like the Lane Kingdom player, and then people just make excuses that it's his teammates that threw all the fights. It's like, if you are the best player in the world, by the way, and you play mid lane, I will say he has probably the worst set of teammates anyone who's the best player in the world's ever had. But fucking hell, mate, that is the role to carry games with. Like, in fact, at this world's meta, you can side lane. Like, dude, if you're really as good as they say, you could have won some of these other games as well. You could have made them look better. Whereas sometimes I would see him have the champion, the CS, and it's like, I mean, this is good, but like, it's not the best player in the world material, you know. Like, that isn't what I bought the ticket to see this guy 1v9 every game, and I don't think I saw it as often as I was promised, you know.
I mean, he's arguably been, if you actually think about it, he's arguably been the 8th best mid laner at the tournament. If you take, you know, Showmaker, obviously, Faker, BDD, Humanoid, Perks, Scout, like, he is way down the list in terms of like mid laners who have played well. And again, a classic thing that people always love to bring up is, you know, Showmaker versus Chovy. And again, it's best of ones. You have different opponents. Sure. It's not like a completely fair comparison. But if you just look at their in-game behaviors after laning phase, or as you're transitioning into the playing around the mid game and objectives, I mean, it's night and day. Even if you take someone like BDD, go and watch back some of the team fights that BDD played around Drake. Like, absolutely insane. Like, not necessarily 1v1 because he didn't do it on his own, but insane setup. Like, here's Azir. Like, I think, I don't know. For me, as I said, Chovy, maybe again, it's one of these cases of my team's not particularly good, so my idea of damage control is I'm going to have amazing laning numbers. And again, he has been one of these mid laners who's prioritized things like the Syndra, which, to be honest, it's not bad. Like, it's a viable semi-meta champion for sure. But I don't think it's necessarily, or I don't think it's always been the best choice when he's picked it. But what it does absolutely guarantee is you're going to go even at worst in lane, unless, you know, the world collapses around you. So maybe that's a lack of trust in his jungler. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I think that, again, unless he manages to bait Faker to go, you know, ego for ego with him, I don't really see how he's going to be the one to take control of the game. And given who the jungler it is, and, you know, I would say Deft would be more likely to be an X factor in this scenario, but I mean, who's going to enable him? Again, he's reliant on the jungler and his support player, and both have been poor, in my opinion, this tournament so far. So yeah, it's just so hard to manufacture ways where they win, and to me it just always comes back to the same thing: is, can you bait Faker into just sprinting the game down? And I think Faker's way too smart and been around for way too long for that to ever happen. And if it does happen, it will happen once in the first game. So yeah, I don't see it happening.
My joke that I made on Twitter, because if you know the two players and like the how you would like normally categorize them, is it looked like BDD and fucking Chovy did like some fucking Freaky Fridays shit and just swapped bodies. Because if people don't know, BDD and Gen.G are supposed to be one of the most boring fucking teams you'll ever watch. Like, all they do is like play the same exact way. They keep the same players, by the way, for years and years, and then BDD just picks Azir and does all the shit he normally does. this Worlds, mate, that guy was just fucking going ham. It's like he had a fire under his arse. He was going ham in some of these games. Even the ones they lost, he was making plays and going for big balls moves. Like, I thought it was pretty legit. So, yeah, I would even say there's a good angle to actually point out the Chovy criticism. It's like, mate, he hasn't even been close to the best Korean mid laner. In fact, as you said, you could go 4 or 5 deep before we even have to bring this guy up. Like, we can bring in fucking people like Scout and remember that guy's Korean as well. We could put these guys on the list right now. So, like, I just think if you're going to go with that whole, like, Church of Chovy thing, like, this wasn't the tournament for you guys. Like, that was like LCK or something. This wasn't it. But what about this? As like some final topics, Foxdrop, since obviously I'll have different shows, different guests, and give me this premise, right? Who do you think, as of right now, before any quarterfinals are played, who wins Worlds? Who's your team that you're taking?
I think Damwon wins Worlds. I think they've looked. That's the easy answer. They've looked the cleanest. Obviously, they're 6-0, but I just think they know what to do at lots of stages of the game, and they don't make a lot of mistakes compared to other teams. So when you're not making as many mistakes, it's hard to get punished. Obviously, that sounds really dumb to say, but that's just how you win League of Legends games, right? You especially if you're trying to make a comeback, you just wait for the other team to make a mistake. I think Damwon's too good in the lane phase, and they don't make enough mistakes for teams to consistently beat them, which you need to do in a best of 5.
Who do you have, Rich?
I mean, if it guns to my head, I picked Damwon, and I just think that Damwon. The problem with Damwon, the reason why I think that they are so hard to beat is just because their early game is so good. I don't actually think their mid to late game is that amazing. I think it's clean, it's solid, it's definitely decent, but I think they enter into those phases of the game most of the time with comfortable leads, so it's rarely tested that much. And when games are close, as I said, if you go look back at the Mad Damwon series, when they were close in gold, Mad were winning the team fight. So I don't think they're like the best team fighting team in the world or something like that. I just think they're like Rogue on steroids and without the mid-game fumbles. But for the purposes of being that guy, I'm going to say Mad. I'm going to say Mad win what, and this is based off of, and I admit this is kind of like again, no, if a gun's to my head, I don't bet on Mad.
Of course.
So far as that, I've discarded Damwon as the obvious choice. I then go Mad because my theory on this is that if Damwon are going to lose, I think it will be in their first series that they play. I also think that there is big upset potential. I consider there to be more upset potential than I think most do with this series. I think there's precedence for that, which I don't think people are giving enough stock to, which is that they went 5 games last time, and that it wasn't just that Mad had some crazy level 1s or something and then skirted to the game because their fucking AD carry went into lane with 3 kills or something. No, they were playing those games out to even states and then better at team fighting. So I think if someone beats Damwon, I think it's Mad. And I think if Mad beat Damwon, then you don't look at any other series beyond that point and put them second best necessarily. So yeah, I actually, and to sort of frame this more fairly, if Mad were on the other side of the bracket, I would actually bet on Mad to meet in the final. Against Damwon. I actually would. That would be my genuine pick. Because again, I said this way before Worlds, I said, do not be surprised if all 3 EU teams go out in groups, because 2 of them aren't that good, and 1 of them is Mad, who are horrendous at best of 1s. Mad are really good at best of 5s. They sort of grow into a series. The game 1 is just information for them. You're just feeding them information. You're feeding them your best picks, and they will just adapt to you as and when they choose. And also something that Mad really understand as well is comfort. So many people in League of Legends, especially coaches and analysts, still massively underrate comfort, and they're so high on their own supply that they will just constantly think that they've like mastered the meta and because I saw this and that, I know that this is really good, and actually this is like a sleeper pick into this.
Sure.
And disregard player comfort so much. Mad don't do that at all. If Armu identifies a scenario where Wukong is semi-viable and he doesn't think the other lane is that good, he'll pick it, and 9 times out of 10 it will actually work for him. And so much of that is predicated, or I would say 90% of that is predicated on his comfort level on the champion, not because it was actually a super optimum pick in that scenario. And I think when you get deep into these kinds of series, people should default to comfort a lot more than they do. And very often when you see teams do default to comfort late in series, they usually win those games, in my experience. So yeah, again, Damwon, but I'm happy to say like my official pick is Mad. Like I actually think they would be my second best BO5 team.
Right, here's the thing. Even though I totally get it, like I agree, if I really had a gun to my head, I would just pick down one and be boring and just say they'll win. I actually do think that there's a very reasonable chance that EDG can win Worlds, and I'll give you why. Because first of all, I think Dan One will win the other side of the bracket. So it's essentially who can beat Dan One at that point in time. And I actually think EDG is the only fucking team in this tournament who can activate what everyone sees as the obvious glaring hole, which is EDG has the best bot lane and Dan One has far from the best bot lane. So Viper and Mako, if they can get them going, they can fucking make that a gap. They can make that a win condition for themselves. And so in that scenario, now you're in an even more dangerous version of what you said earlier about Mad versus Dan One. Now it's like, can Dan One get enough laning leads from top side of the map that it's irrelevant the fact that in theory the power fucking bot lane will wreck us in the team fights. Then I think also you got to look at their angle, which is the top laner of Dan One is one of those players I don't fucking bet in favour of. Khan. Like, this guy has let me down too many times. And I have to say, it would be the most fucking Khan thing of all time to get to the final with a team that previously won Worlds. By the way, he joined FPX the year after they won Worlds. He did fuck all. He's previously played in SKT, admittedly years earlier with Champion. Like, this guy just goes to World Championship Orgs and doesn't win Worlds. Like, it would be the most, because if you don't know, it's his last tournament ever. It would be the most Khan way ever to fuck up and just lose the thing after looking, by the way, brilliant in the rest of the tournament, and then just walk off into the sunset with people just booing him like, boo, you piece of shit. Like, that would just unfortunately be the ultimate, like, fucking cherry on the top of the shit cake that's been his career. So it's sad because he is a great player, but man, he has the fucking anti-intangibles when he's in the big moment. I don't know what's wrong with this guy. And the problem is, since I did bet on him early in his career, I always doubly punish motherfuckers who betray me. Like, it's even an analytical thing I do in CS. You'll just watch out for it, fans. Watch, it's an Easter egg. If I ever bet on him and they betray me, I'm their fucking worst critic for the rest of the tournament. I see everything that's wrong with him. And then, so yeah, there's the main angles. So I will say, like, I do think, especially based on what we've seen so far, it should obviously be Dan One. And I know people are going to go, you're out of your mind. Fuck, you mean EDG, the team that lost to T1? First of all, it's a best of one. And then they lost to 100 Thieves in the most meaningless game ever at the end of the group, you fucking moron. Like, no one gives a shit. That's why I say, y'all are overrating certain upsets. Like, that's an upset that doesn't matter. Oh, so finally, when you had no chance to win anymore, you could actually pull out a real game. Who gives a fuck? That may as well be a fucking exhibition game at that point in time. That may as well be the fucking Harlem Globetrotters against the Washington Generals. Who gives a shit? It's not the NBA Finals, is it, motherfucker? So I think when it actually comes down to it, assuming they get past RNG, as we said, they're almost certainly going to win the semi-finals. If they get to the final, I think they'll play Dan One. I'm hyped for this matchup. I think it could be the best matchup of the tournament. I think it's actually a rare chance that they could win. I'll also throw in there, just as a random detail, I also think it would just be hilarious. Because if you know, right, Flandre is a player back in the day in the LPL who was probably a bit underrated by Westerners because his team never made it to Worlds. So they didn't know he was like one of the best top laners, but he was on like questionable teams or borderline good teams. It would also just be hilarious to see every idiot probably tell me like now he's like the greatest top laner ever when he wins at the end of his fucking career and he's not even close to the best player on his team, because that's just the way it is in League of Legends. All the narratives have to be crafted to specifically target me and trigger me for some reason, except for that whole thing where Reckless always fucks up Worlds and cries. That's like the universe throwing me a bone after it fucks me over all the time. It's like, okay, I'll take that, do the fucking trade meme. Actually, you look like you could be the trade meme, Foxdrop. Like, I offer you TSM must win a bunch. Okay, don't really think I like this trade, but Reckless will cry 3 times and put, you know what? Now you look at it, yeah, that weighs up pretty good, actually. I'll take that deal. I'll take that trade. So is there any final statements before we close this one, boys?
I just wanted to do like a mini PSA. I don't want to get sort of neck deep into this topic because it's whatever. So I'm not even going to bother explaining the backdrop to it much.
All right.
But obviously everyone's seen like the Bwippo post and, you know,
it's called a whip longer.
The whip longer.
Yeah, I've invented the term because he's done it a few times now. So it's a whip longer. Okay.
And all you fucking idiots who thought Yamato Cannon was the head coach didn't realize that secretly behind the scenes some girl called Lena was. But anyway, my mini.
Wait a minute, she's called Lena as well.
Yeah, she's called Lena. Yeah,
life's just too strange, isn't it? Life's just too strange. Yeah. I don't know. Keep going.
I feel like the TSM one fittingly has a double E, and this one only has a single E. So she still has to earn her stripes. It gives me those kind of vibes. But yeah, so anyway, Coach Lena at it again. But no, the PSA is sort of a bigger scope point, I guess, about enabling bad behavior in esports, right? So something I was actually quite happily surprised that I saw was like when this Whippo thing came out, obviously I go to Reddit and think, how stupid out of 10 are we today, Reddit? And I was actually pretty surprised that most people were absolutely slating him for how self-serving and delusional this post was.
Oh, okay. Some rare time they got it right.
Obviously, the most updated ones were basically like, oh, Whippo. But like once you scroll down past the initial nonsense, like I would say the majority of the people who posted did see through the veil, right? Okay. But one of the issues that sort of really annoyed me, maybe annoyed me more than it should have, is I saw that Medic had like commented under the post saying something completely innocuous. Like I'm not going to pretend like he, gave some sort of heartfelt endorsement or whatever, but he said something to the effect of, you're still one of the best, bro. Get better, take time off, and blah, 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 whatever. Just some random nicety. Yeah. But my issue with it, and this is what the PSA is however small and almost unconnected that sentiment is to the nonsense that was within the body of the text, you are still tacitly endorsing disgraceful behavior. And, I like Medic. I think he's a really good caster from what I know about him as a person. This is not me, like, judging Medic for what I would consider to be a slip in judgment, in my opinion. But we've come so far, I think, in terms of, like, the level of education of the scene. A great example, I think, is, like, the finances and esports, right? I think if you were actually now to randomly survey people who regularly use Reddit or social media or YouTube, and you said to them, like, do you think the average team in the LEC is profitable? I actually think you'd get a lot of people now who know what the actual answer is to those kind of questions, right? But with something like this, when it comes to player behavior and how much we baby these people and how much we let them get away with, don't just see this as a singular issue as well. Obviously understand that the huge implications this has for the other teammates who have to deal with this shit, the disrespect to the org, the coaching staff, all the rest of it. I'm not going to get super deep into that. But please, just especially people who are like remotely prominent in the scene, if someone writes something which is a sob story just on the basis that you think you're going to score a few brownie points, or maybe you just have the very good intentions, as I'm sure Medic did, of just wishing someone he probably likes well wishes and to get better, just don't do it if the guy has actually written basically a link level dossier slating his entire team just in a much more veiled and clever way. Like, please don't do that, because Whippo is on the precipice of having his deserved reputation of being a fucking cunt. I can't put it any more bluntly than that. So let's not sort of have people who, again, I genuinely really respect, like Medic, holding back the education of the masses by tacitly endorsing bullshit like this. And yeah, that is all I would say on that, because yeah, the more people that do that, the slower the scene's going to develop. And this isn't going to be some Richard Lewis level of I outed something in the scene or whatever, but these small things happen. To quote Tesco's, every little helps. Just instead of responding, just don't. I'm not telling you to call him what he is. Just don't even respond.
This video was kindly supported by Lagger15, Matt Pugnatio, Rajcula, Skaparen, Travis Goff, Zack Schmidt, Adam Ochs, Alexander Rao, Animosity, Butt Pounder 420, Chris, Hades, Jdubs, Jensen Goh, John Shelton, Joseph Ginsburg, Kovacevicd, Tobias Bernasconi, Zoomba, Zyrathenia, and as always, a special thanks goes out to both Jerky's Minion and DZL. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Would you like to ask a question for my monthly AMA? Want teasers for upcoming content or interview guests have I done, etc.? Do you want to take part in one of those donated discussions? Well, if you want any of the above and previously mentioned, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scroomalati today at the description box link to Patreon.